Numbers 5 is not a ticket to ride. Let me explain. As of recently, I've heard a lot of talk about people using the Bible to support abortion. This seems to be happening after the rise of a certain politician out of Texas who is a theologian that supports abortion. Anyway, they're using Numbers chapter 5, saying it's a prescription for abortion, that God is okay with abortion. But what we have to do is look at the context. What are they talking about? So when we look in Numbers chapter 5, verses 11 through 28, it is referring to faithfulness of marriage. So what we're dealing with is a husband, if he thought his wife had been unfaithful, he could take her to the priest, and the priest would do a ceremony, have her say an oath, and then drink bitter water. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If she drank the bitter water and she was found guilty by God, because it is God's judgment upon her, as she had been unfaithful and defiled herself by being with another man other than her husband, then the curse of the bitter water would be upon her, and her womb would shrink, and her abdomen would swell, and she would be infertile for the rest of her life. Now, I know in the NIV it says miscarriage here, but what we have to understand in the context of it, that miscarriage means that any pregnancy she tried to have before would be after any pregnancy after her would end in miscarriage. She would not be able to have children. She would be rendered infertile for the rest of her life. Now, this was for a wife that was found guilty of being unfaithful to her husband. Now, let's say a wife was brought before a priest. Husband thought she had been unfaithful, but she actually was found by God to have been faithful and not defiled herself. Then the bitter water would have no effect on her, and her womb would stay intact, and she would not have the curse, and she would be able to continue to have children. See, context is key. We cannot take the Word of God and transform it to mean something to fit into our life. We are to allow the Word of God to transform us. We are to take it as it is written, not as we would have it be. Right? So the ticket, Numbers 5 is not a ticket to ride the abortion train. Understanding the Word of God correctly and translating it correctly and applying it to our life correctly is what a servant of God does.